Welcome everybody. My name's Julie Duncan. I work for the local authority, and as of next week, I am the Early Help Workforce Development Officer, which I haven't actually got a clue what that means at the moment, but all will be revealed in the fullness of time. But for the past 4 or 5 years, I've worked across the early help economy, supporting partners, of which school is a really key player, fairly obviously. So I do a lot of work with Sevendale. I meet with Sevendale staff at least once a fortnight and support them to support you. That's basically what my role is. So and it's going really, really well at the moment. I'm really, really pleased, and I hope they are. And as part of that, it has been to understand from school's perspective what early help looks like for parents of children who have got complex needs, because it sounds a little bit sort of shutting the door after the horses left the stable, doesn't it? If we're talking about children who've got complex needs, and then we're talking about early help and putting interventions in at the lowest level possible. But my background personally is that amongst my children, I have got two children who are on the autistic spectrum and a daughter who isn't. So I know partially I've got quite a lot of empathy and understanding of what it's like to have a family life, which can be quite stressful. But I also did about 10 years actually fostering children with very complex disabilities as well. So I've also had a taste of what life can be like when you've got children who are non-mobile or non-verbal, and the stresses and strains that that can put on family life. So for me, it's about saying, okay, we can't necessarily support you with some of the very complex issues around your child's disability, but what we can do is try and make sure that the support is there for any other area of your life, which will make life easier for everybody. So hopefully that will make sense as we go through. So we know there are additional challenges when families have got children with disabilities and SEND, and we also know that that can change and can become more or less sort of impactful on the rest of family life, depending on various stages in a child's life. So periods of transition are often quite challenging. As a child grows, there can be some sort of quite fear of the unknown, what's going to happen when. So that can have a massive impact on the parents, on the child themselves, but also on the siblings and other family members as well. And that's certainly something that I've taken away from my life with my daughter. She's now in her 30s, and we have really long conversations about this still. So it's really important to think about the impact that this can have on the whole family, not just on the child themselves. We know also that it doesn't matter who you are, what your kids are like, every family needs early help at some point. They might not quite recognise that, because I think it's early help is a term that we bandy around as professionals, but actually doesn't really make a great deal of sense to people out there. But what we know is that families face challenges. You know, children do not come with a manual, and you think you've cracked it with one, and then the next one comes along and you need a different manual anyway. So we know that families need support, and they are going to go to that for that support to those people that they already know and trust. So it might be a friend, a neighbour, a family member, it might be nursery or school, it could be a health visitor or school nurse, GP, could even be a housing provider. It's because families go to the people who they think they're going to show some empathy and listen to them. So that is what my role has primarily been for the last 5 years, is supporting those agencies to make sure that they are there to support families. Because what we say is, it doesn't matter what the issues are. If somebody goes to a professional and says, I'm really worried because, that we don't expect everybody to have all the answers. And in fact, parents tell them they don't expect people to have all the answers. But what they want is somebody who will listen, have some empathy, and consider how that is impacting on everybody. So what we don't want is somebody to go into a school and say, I've had an eviction notice today, and schools say, oh, I'm really sorry, but we're here to teach your children. You know, we're not the right people to talk to. We support schools to understand who the right people are and how to support parents to link up with them. And that's as true of families who've got children at Sevendale as it is at any other school as well. Because, of course, as well as the challenges and joys that your child brings, you've got all the other parts of life as well. You've got jobs, you've got houses, you've got relationships, you've got hopes and dreams of your own as well. So it impacts on everybody. So early help support includes all sorts of things. It includes support with parenting. So again, parenting can be really, really challenging. Some of us who are professionals and you think, oh, well, they'll have definitely got it cracked. It's amazing because your own children can really push your buttons, can't they? So we've got people who can offer non-judgmental support with parenting. We've got people who can support around employment issues and money difficulties, who can help you understand and navigate your own emotional health and well-being, as well as that of your family. And also people who just know what services are available in your community. I don't know where you guys are from, but the services that are available, for example, in Market Drayton, some of them are different to the services that are available in Bishop's Castle. And similarly, if you're in Oswestry, there are some fantastic services. There are different services available in Clibbre Mortimer. So depending on where you are, there will be some services that are county-wide or even nationwide, but there'll be other services that are community-based that are only available in your community. So it's really important to know what's there for you and your family locally. And I think the other thing is to understand the role that all family members have. So very often where we've got a family who's got a child with a disability, other family members take on perhaps slightly different roles, slightly unusual roles. So children may become more sufficient siblings. It might mean somebody working slightly longer. So it's really important that the wishes and feelings of everybody in the family are considered. It's also important to understand the strengths of a family as well. I think very often when professionals talk to families, we really focus on all of the things that are going wrong. And one of the things I like to do is actually what's going right for a family. Let's talk about celebrate those successes as well. But that's not ignoring those challenges. So what we want to do is work with families to understand what they want to make better and if we can support them to do that. Again, talking to families, what they've said is that they hate the fact that they have to talk to lots of different professionals and repeat their story. And I think that is even more true of families with children with disabilities because there is so many more professionals very often involved. So what we try to do in early help is ensure that this is coordinated by one lead worker. And that lead worker is the main point of contact and can broker some of those repetitive conversations so that you don't have to just go over the same old ground again, explaining the same stuff. So, cutting to the chase, what help's available for you and your family? Well, the first thing that I would say is, like a lot of things at the moment, a lot of the support that is available is online. I've just got Shropshire Fish Bar up, which really wasn't helpful. I'm trying to type in Shropshire Family Information Service. The computer obviously thinks I need tips. So the Shropshire Family Information Service is, just move you across there, is a website that is available for all parents and carers to use. A lot of people think of it primarily as thinking about finding childcare, but actually there is so much more information available on there. There is also a family information directory, which gives lots of information about all sorts of services, both local and national, for every family. And so what we have got on there is a special page looking at the SEND local offer. So you can find, as you can see, there's 549 results on the local offer on the information directory. And you can search for things by area. So you might want to look in what's available just in Oswestry. So that, as you can see, that's immediately brought it down to 329 results. So I didn't know that was happening. You know, there's a social SIBS group in Oswestry. That's brilliant, run by Empathy. So straight away, you can see that you can find some information out with contact details very easily that allow you to think that might be useful for my child and I. You might think, oh, I'd never thought of taking my child to the library. But actually, if the library is putting this information on this part of the website, what they're saying is you and your family are welcome here. And sometimes that's just really good to hear, isn't it? You might decide you actually want to think about something more specific, so you don't want just generic stuff. So you might want to, you've got a child perhaps that wants to do something slightly more arty. So again, what is there available in terms of art? So you can really drill down to what is available on the information directory. And move. Has anybody actually had the opportunity to use the FIS or the information directory? Is it something that you've thought of using previously?
I've looked at it before, and you know, I've dipped in and out of things to do with the All In.
Brilliant, because that's what I'm just about to move on to, Amanda.
Yeah.
So well done. And what is really useful to get from parents is feedback about is what's on there useful. So because I've got a colleague who works both on the information directory and on across the All In provision, and I'm always keen to feed back to her about how parents find it, because it's fine us saying, oh, it's there, but that's no good if you aren't finding it useful. So the other website that we always encourage people to look at is the SEND local offer website. So that again has got a lot of information available on there to say about a whole range of topics that parents and young people said they would find really useful. So everything from education, early years, preparing to adulthood, to things to do, which you can see these things all link back together again, because if we click on things to do, it takes us to our All In page. So our short breaks and all in offer. And All In is definitely part of our wider Shropshire early help offer. So All In is now provided by a consortium called Actio. They took over the delivery of the programme, so coordinating the delivery of the programme from the beginning of April. So if you've used All In previously, you will have been sent some information to re-register. Have you had that, Amanda?
I have re-registered at some point, which wasn't that long ago. But it is something that I'm gonna double check on. So, but I'm quite happy sort of just sorting that out. It's not, you know, I've kind of been All In for quite a long time, so they kind of know me a little bit as well, I suppose.
No, that is brilliant, because for some people, I know what it's like. I mean, even if you get things by email, there are things that we put behind the metaphorical clock on the mantelpiece and think we'll look at later, and these are the sort of emails that you do. But because under GDPR, because the management of All In has moved from the local authority to a consortium called Actio, we've had to ask people for their permission to share their information with them. So local authorities still deal with the registration, but Actio deal with all of the provision. So again, very simple. You can apply online. So your All In registration form is online. And what it does do then is give you access to a whole range of activities. That's not where I wanted to go. You see, I'm really useless at this. There we are, it's that one. I'm a great believer in trawling Google for things. I can't remember website addresses to save me life. So on here, this is the Actio website, and this has got all of the different programs that are available. So you've got your short breaks opportunities there. And as you can see, there's all sorts of things available. So once you've registered, these are a whole range of different opportunities that are delivered by providers who are very supportive of working with children who have got additional needs. Some of them might be specifically for children with additional needs. Some of them may be also open access as well. And that's great. I think that's smashing. So there's plenty of information on both the Family Information Directory and through the All In programme. So hopefully that is something that people will find useful. But it might be something else that's niggling away at you. So you might think, well, actually, the problem is that I don't know what to do about the fact that I've had this letter from the housing association and and I don't know who to talk to. So what most people do is talk to somebody who already know your family. So it can be somebody at nursery or school. And that is very often the first two places that people go. And when you talk to somebody about those issues, they won't have a magic wand. They'll listen. And this is the sort of thing that they might suggest to you. So they might suggest doing something called a whole family assessment. And you might think that's really, really invasive. I'm asking you about one particular thing, and all of a sudden you want to ask me about all of this. And the reason for that is that our evidence and research shows that very often the issues that people come to have those conversations about are actually the symptoms, not the cause. So it's actually trying to dig a little bit deeper to work out what those causes are. When you do a whole family assessment, it's entirely up to you how much information you share. So it's not an interrogation, it's definitely a conversation. They might talk to you about holding a family meeting, and that might be just you and one individual, or they may suggest, well, could we invite your other child's nursery or maybe a health professional along? And again, it's very much driven by you. You're in the driving seat. You can say yes or no to that. They might talk about a family plan. And that's about saying, right, this is what you've said is important. This is what you want to do. This is how we're going to do it and how we're going to know when we've got there. And they might talk to you about exploring some more targeted sources of support. So they might not be the best people to help with this, but they will be able to identify who is. So that's the sort of thing, if you ask those questions, that you might be asked back. We talk about whole family assessments, and the first thing, and I can't say this strongly enough, this is very much consent driven. So the first thing people will ask you to do is fill in a consent form. And the consent form needs to be signed by everybody who lives in your household who's over 13. So if you've got a partner, if you've got older children, and it's anybody over 13 who has got the capacity to understand what the issues are. So again, you will know your family best. And if you think, well, actually, I've got a 14-year-old, but that isn't appropriate, that's fine. Nobody's going to challenge you on that, because obviously we will have other professionals who are aware of your family situation as well. And then they will go through a whole family WebStar and assessment. Some of the questions are quite invasive. There's 6 areas that we look at. So we look at crime and antisocial behaviour. We look at children's school attendance. We look at the sorts of issues that make children vulnerable. So are the children in the family children who may benefit from some support? We look at employment and housing issues and whether or not people are struggling financially. We look at if there's any issues around domestic abuse, and we also look at health issues. So there's 6 massive areas there. And for each of those, we talk about the past, the present, and what you'd like to make better. As I said, it's up to you how much information you share. You know, nobody's going to sit there with thumb screws or anything. This is very much driven by what you want to put on the table. What we often find is that the first assessment, people don't say everything, and why should they? You're telling personal stuff to people who you don't know. You're trusting them with that. So we often find that at the first assessment, people might withhold something, and that often comes out later when they feel that this is okay, I can trust these people. Everybody's asked the same question. So if you know, if there is a question there about domestic abuse, it's not because we are saying we think there is domestic abuse in your relationship. It's giving everybody permission to talk about that. So it's not about judging you. And you can be really confident that any information you share will only be shared with other people who need to know about it with your agreement. So you can say, I'm happy for you to share this information with everybody who you feel may be able to offer support, or actually at this point in time, you didn't talk to my daughter's school because I'm not comfortable with that yet. And that's fine. That will be respected. I work really hard with all of the practitioners who do these assessments to make sure that actually this isn't a process that families feel that they're being done unto. So the assessment for me should always be very, very child-centred. Although it's a whole family assessment, what we're looking at is what's life like for the children in this family. So I expect people to have an understanding of child development because, well, otherwise we can get things quite wrong, and to think about things, you know, we're not into making things difficult for people. What we want to do is think about, is this right for this family? Very much want it to be strengths based as well as identifying challenges, and we want it to be inclusive and to involve the children and families. And I have this morning sent an email to a school who have submitted an assessment that I'm pretty sure they didn't actually do with mum. So I have sent it back and said, please, could you just confirm that we have had mum's input on this, because I'm feeling a little dubious. So we will challenge people if we feel that they're not treating families equitably. Interagency in their approach. So what does that mean? That means that if you've got children at more than one school, that actually the schools might both have some input on this, because they will both be involved in the provision of services. That people, if you're having somebody says, can we do an assessment, it doesn't stop other things happening. That services can still be provided, and we expect I've got really high expectations of our schools, nursery providers and other colleagues, that they really do have an understanding of the evidence base behind this. But most importantly for me, doing an assessment is not about it being a tick box exercise, or actually we'll do this assessment because if we do this you might get a better service. That's not what it's about. It's actually about finding out what the issues are. If it does mean that you need a service, then that's great. But actually, that's not why you're doing it. You're doing it to actually explore the issues. And we talk a great deal about the voice of the child, and it's really important to hear about the voice of those children in the family too. And this is often supported through school or nursery. And Sevendale have done a fantastic job in understanding what this looks like for the children who attend their school. This again is not a form that we tick boxes on. This is about understanding the children, understanding how they communicate, what's important to them, how to frame things. So you might be asked by school, you know, do you mind if we do some work with your child to capture their voice? And this is very much about understanding the world from their perspective. As I say, in any way that works for them. So it can be a Lego model, it can be a picture, it can be a poem, it can be an observation, it can be somebody, you know, sharing things using their communication system. It really doesn't matter what it looks like. It's not about giving a child a form and asking them a load of questions. And then when we've done all that, because that seems quite a lot of work for you, so what's the end result likely to be? Who can be out there to support you and your family? Well, first and foremost, I would say the schools that your children attend. Your children are in school 5 days a week, 39 weeks of the year, so it's really important that they are key players in this support. Health professionals are also really important, especially when we've got children who've got additional needs. If you've got younger children, early years and childcare provision, my background is early years, so again it's something I'm very keen on, but they offer so much support for families. But then thinking slightly wider, if you've got other children in the family, it might be that a referral to Shropshire Young Carers is appropriate, because again, this is not a judgment. This is not saying these children are doing something they shouldn't be doing, but it's acknowledging that having a sibling with disabilities often means that they have to take on slightly more care and responsibilities. So they might read to their sibling or sit with them while they go to sleep. They might just keep an eye on them while they're in the garden. And Simon, who runs Shropshire Young Carers, is remarkably flexible about what being a young carer looks like. And I know from talking to my daughter, we actually were involved in a sibling group, and that was one of her greatest sources of support, was just sitting on a wall talking to somebody else who was in the same boat as she was, who had two brothers who were driving a distracted, who she adored and would fight to the death for anybody else for, but God, did they just drive her mad at home. We also do lots of work with housing providers, so all across the spectrum, from people who maybe are finding themselves at point of eviction, right through to people who might need some adaptations in the house. We can work with housing providers. We work with our domestic abuse services. We have got a team of targeted early help family support workers, so they go into a family home. More and more we are coming back to that, to more face-to-face now, but they work with the whole family to just make sure that that plan is coordinated. And then we've got our, as we've said, our all-in provision. And the reason there's dots at the end isn't because I ran out of ideas. It's because actually every family is different. Every family's support mechanisms will be different. So I don't want to rule anything in or out. It's what works for your family. So I encourage people to use the website, because I think the website is really useful. Shropshire Early Help has a section in there for parents and carers and for young people themselves. So there's lots and lots of information on the Shropshire Early Help website. You can see, as I say, I don't put website addresses, I just put that in Google and it works perfectly well. Shropshire Local Offer, again, there is lots of information on the Shropshire Local Offer, including lots of information around supporting young people who perhaps have become very anxious in the current climate and, you know, with COVID. So there's an awful lot of information about young people's emotional well-being on the SEND Local Offer page, which wasn't there previously. And as I said, we've got our information pages. I'd also say check out school newsletters. Schools are brilliant at sharing information, and Sevendale is no different. They put things out in newsletters. They send information home with young people for parents to read. So I really encourage people to check out what's on the school newsletter and talk to somebody in school if you've got any concerns, because as I say, they are very keen to support families with early help and not just focus on the issues of that child who is actually coming on the bus to Sevendale. So that is the end of me talking at you. Has anybody got any thoughts or questions that they would like to bring to the table? Have you all gone for a cup of tea?
I'm still here.
Thank you. Yes, Jay.
Hi, Julie. So I suppose my question is, and it's very specific. I think we've accessed early help last summer as a result of lockdown and a new baby in the family, and that was kind of, I don't know. It was fine, and we're receiving a bit of respite now, and I've now gone back to work following maternity leave. I think at the moment, sort of everything's quite settled, but we are struggling with childcare for Sarah and for my daughter with learning difficulties. So is that something that I would go back to early help for some advice, or is that something, I don't know, is that something that early help would help us with?
What I've done, Jane, is I put my email address in the chat.
Yes.
If you want to email me with some more specifics,
yes.
what I can do is talk to my colleague from the Family Information Directory, who will be able, if you're happy to give me your email address, then I can share that with her and she will be in touch, and we can try and support you to find appropriate childcare for your daughter.
That's music to my ears, Julie. Thank you.
How old's your little girl?
She's 8, and it's because myself and my husband both have early starts with work, so we're really struggling sort of first thing in the morning, and lucky that we have family to help us after school, but
we've got some fantastic childminders who do offer support to children with additional needs, and I know from my own experience that even if that then means the bus picking the child up from the childminders, that is a possibility.
Right, okay, fab.
So hopefully that is something that yes, we can support you with.
Lovely, thank you.
And if anybody else has got anything that they think actually I'd like to have a chat, but perhaps not in a public forum, like I say, I put my email address in the chat box. I am on leave next week, so if I don't get back to you straight away, please bear with me. But I'm more than happy to take your individual queries and explore which would be the best way forward. We've done this session earlier in the week, and I've been doing that for a dad who got something again really specific that he wanted me to look at.
That's lovely. Thank you for the session, Julie.
Brilliant. Have you found this week useful as parents? Because I know this is the first time 7Day I've done anything like this, and I think it's a fantastic idea.
I find it brilliant. I think it's absolutely fantastic. I think
that's good.
Yeah, really, really, really good.
Good, because like I say, I do meet, and I know we will be looking at how this has gone. So it's always really good to get some feedback.
I think it's just really good getting information out for parents, because if it's done in a space like this where you've got 7Day, you know, the parents have got their children there, you've got a captive audience straight away, haven't you? So you can kind of get all the information out to those people there, and you know, I think it's really good. I think, and the way it's being done is being really good, because I think it's more accessible, really. I know face to face is good, but getting there.
we have learned something in the last 15 months, and I think, like you say, the way we deliver things will never go back to exactly the same, but there are still times when I really do wish I didn't have to talk to a screen all day.
It is good, but I think in terms of the sheer volume of stuff that they got this week, there's a lot of information to gather, and I think to get that out like this is it's really good, you know, and especially when they're recording it, because you can catch up on things that you couldn't see.
Absolutely, you can go back and revisit it as well, which is useful.
And it's just getting the information out there, so then if you want to pursue something, you can then go to the people that you need to kind of pursue, but you've got the information there. So, I think it's been brilliant, actually. It's covered so many sort of different areas. It's been really, really, really informative.
Brilliant. Right, has anybody got any more questions? Because I'm sure you're all really busy getting ready for half term, although the weather's supposed to be wonderful next week, which will make a really real difference, won't it?
That's fine for me, Julie. I'm going to head off. So
lovely. Nice to talk to you, Amanda. You look after yourself.
You too. Thanks, Julie.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.